Your brain is not a static machine. It's not a lifeless, unchanging piece of machinery waiting for input so it can process outputs. It is alive, adaptive, and responsive, constantly rewiring itself in reaction to what you do, what you say, what you think, and even what you avoid. This is one of the most profound realizations in both modern neuroscience and ancient philosophy. You are shaping yourself all the time, whether you're aware of it or not. And that shaping is physical, it's measurable, it's real. Every time you make a decision, every time you act, especially when you act consistently, you are casting a vote, not just for the kind of day you'll have, but for the kind of person you're becoming. And more importantly, your brain is listening. It's listening when you procrastinate. It's listening when you face discomfort. It's listening when you avoid the difficult conversation or skip the workout or reach for the easiest distraction. And what's crucial to understand is that your brain doesn't judge your actions. It doesn't moralize. It simply adapts to whatever you repeat. So when you say, "I'll do it later," your brain takes note and begins to make that your default behavior. When you say, "This is too hard," and you walk away, your brain wires that escape route a little more deeply into your identity. Over time, those choices become patterns, and those patterns become your personality. You are not just living your life, you are training your nervous system. Now here's where it gets powerful. The reverse is also true. When you get up and do the hard thing, even when you don't feel like it, especially when you don't feel like it, your brain takes that as a signal of strength. When you act with discipline, you reinforce a sense of control over your environment. When you move forward in the face of fear, you begin to rewrite the neural pathways that used to scream, "Run!" and instead start whispering, "You've got this." And this doesn't happen once. It happens gradually with repetition. That's the principle of neuroplasticity, your brain's ability to rewire itself based on repeated experience. And what's important here is that you don't need to be perfect. You just need to be consistent. The brain doesn't require extreme effort all at once. It requires meaningful, repeated engagement in a direction you choose. That's how new habits form, new belief systems take root, and ultimately, how you become someone you're proud of. But let's go even deeper. Let's look at this from a psychological and philosophical angle. When you repeatedly act in a certain way, you're not just training the brain. You're reinforcing a narrative. You're telling a story about who you are. Every decision you make feeds into that narrative. You might not be aware of it, but it's happening beneath the surface. When you avoid responsibility, you're rehearsing the story of someone who isn't capable. When you lie to yourself, "It doesn't matter. Just this once. Nobody will know." You're training your psyche to devalue integrity. But when you act with discipline, when you choose the hard path, when you show up even when you're exhausted, you're etching a different narrative, one of strength, of sovereignty, of purpose. And the human psyche craves that kind of coherence. We long for the sense that we are aligned with something higher than impulse, something rooted in meaning, not comfort. That's why this isn't just about productivity. It's not about achieving more in less time. It's about becoming more in real time. When you understand that your daily actions are reconfiguring your brain, then suddenly every moment has weight. Every decision becomes sacred. Because now you're not just getting through the day, you're building the next version of yourself. And if you want to become someone capable of real change, someone who can handle adversity, someone who lives with internal authority, then you have to start acting like that person before you feel like that person. You have to vote for that version of yourself with your behavior. You have to begin reinforcing the identity you aspire to, one small decision at a time. Because the truth is, you don't get to avoid the shaping. That's not optional. You are always being molded by repetition, by thought, by habit. The only question is, who's doing the shaping? Are you choosing to shape yourself intentionally? Or are you being shaped unconsciously by fear, distraction, or laziness? This is where responsibility enters the equation again, not as a burden, but as a privilege. You get to decide what your brain becomes. You get to participate in the process of your own transformation. And that's both humbling and empowering. You might say, well, what if I've already wasted years? What if my patterns are too deeply ingrained? The answer is, that's irrelevant. Because neuroplasticity doesn't stop at 20 or 30 or 50. As long as you're alive and choosing, your brain is still adapting. It's never too late to become a different person, but it is too late to keep waiting. You don't need motivation to start. That's another lie people believe, that they have to feel ready first. No, you just need to start, because action precedes clarity, repetition precedes change, and meaning follows movement. You act differently first, and then your brain catches up. Then your identity begins to shift. Then your emotions begin to align. This is why those first few decisions in the morning matter so much. When you wake up and immediately reach for your phone, delay your responsibilities, or fall into passive behavior, you're reinforcing a subconscious narrative avoidance. You're training your mind to start the day from a position of weakness. But when you begin the day by acting in accordance with your highest aim, even in something small, you're asserting dominance over the drift. You're stepping into authorship, and this extends far beyond the morning. It's not about having the perfect start. It's about recognizing that every moment is an opportunity to signal something to your brain. Every time you resist the easy path, you are voting for a version of you that is capable. Every time you face discomfort voluntarily, you are preparing your nervous system for stress. You are expanding your tolerance, your capacity, your character. And over time, this begins to change everything. You begin to trust yourself. You begin to act not from fear or obligation, but from conviction. Your discipline becomes less effort and more rhythm. Your habits become expressions of who you are, not tools to fix who you aren't. And this is where real confidence is born, not from accomplishments or praise, but from self-congruence, from knowing that your thoughts, actions, and values are aligned, from knowing that your behavior is not betraying your potential. So if there's one thing I would urge you to remember, it's this: every action you take is a vote for the future you're building. And your brain is listening. It's listening when you rise early. It's listening when you push past resistance. It's listening when you follow through on what you said you'd do. And in every one of those moments, it's quietly becoming what you've trained it to be. So train it wisely. There's a deeply ingrained illusion that paralyzes people, and it's this idea that you need to wait until you feel ready before you act, that you need more clarity, more energy, more motivation, that you need the circumstances to be right, the doubt to disappear, the fear to subside. But if you wait for all those things to align before you move, you'll never move. You'll think yourself into stagnation. You'll analyze your life to the point of paralysis. Because the truth is, you can't think your way into a new life. You have to act your way into it. Most people don't change because they believe thinking is the same as doing. They believe that insight is transformation, but that's a dangerous confusion. Insight is valuable, but it's not enough. Knowing what to do doesn't make you disciplined. Understanding your trauma doesn't make you free. Real change doesn't happen when you gain more knowledge. It happens when you consistently act in alignment with that knowledge. And that process is not mental. It's embodied. The nervous system isn't rewired through thought alone. It's rewired through repetition, through behavior, through conscious, deliberate action. That's where the transformation occurs. At the intersection of understanding and execution, the people who change aren't the ones who feel inspired once in a while. They're the ones who act differently despite how they feel. They initiate. They move. And because they move, their brain chemistry shifts, their internal state begins to change in response to their external behavior. This is where modern neuroscience and ancient wisdom meet. Dopamine, the neurochemical often associated with motivation, is not released when you sit and visualize success. It's released when you begin to pursue a meaningful goal. In fact, it spikes not at the achievement, but at the pursuit. That's how your biology is wired. You don't get motivated and then move. You move and then you get motivated. The action comes first. The emotion follows. That's why waiting to feel ready is a trap. Readiness is not a prerequisite for movement. It's a result of movement. You take the step forward, and then your brain begins to update its model of reality. It begins to realize, oh, we're capable of more than we thought. But you only access that revelation after you act, not before. And this is one of the hardest things to accept because it runs counter to our comfort-seeking instincts. The brain, left unchecked, will always steer you toward safety, toward the familiar. It will disguise comfort as logic, avoidance as self-care, hesitation as intelligence. It will build rational narratives to keep you still. And if you listen too long, those stories become beliefs, and those beliefs become your identity. So what do? You move anyway. You act in opposition to the falsehood. You prove through motion that the story isn't true, that you are not as helpless as you've been led to believe, that your limitations are often not biological or circumstantial, but behavioral. They're the result of an action, not incapacity. This is where discipline becomes more than a habit. It becomes a form of truth-telling. When you act decisively, especially in the face of doubt or fear, you are declaring that your potential matters more than your mood. You're showing your nervous system that you are not a slave to emotion, that you can override impulse, that you are capable of acting in alignment with principle rather than preference. This is one of the deepest forms of personal power, to choose the difficult thing because it's meaningful, not because it's easy, to pursue the uncomfortable truth instead of the comfortable lie, to structure your day in accordance with who you want to become, not how you happen to feel at 700 a.m. That's not rigidity, that's integrity. And the more you live this way, the more your identity begins to catch up with your behavior. You start to see yourself differently, not because you've achieved some external milestone, but because you've demonstrated internal consistency. You've taught your mind and body that you're capable of persistence, that you're not at the mercy of distraction, discouragement, or delay, that you can hold the line. And that's the irony. People chase confidence. They try to think their way into self-belief. But real confidence isn't created in the mind. It's built through action. You can't affirm yourself into respect. You have to earn it from yourself. You have to behave in ways that align with the kind of person you want to be. And when you do day after day, something extraordinary happens else. Your self-perception changes at a biological level. Your neural networks restructure, your habits reconfigure, your internal dialogue begins to shift from doubt to conviction. Not because you told yourself a new story, but because you proved one. That's how transformation works. Not through dramatic declarations, but through deliberate, often invisible repetition. Through showing up on the days you'd rather stay hidden. Through taking small, precise actions when your mind is screaming for escape. Through doing the next right thing when no one's watching and no one's clapping. And the beauty is, you don't have to fix your whole life in one day. You just have to move in the direction of who you could be. You just have to act like the person you're trying to become, even if it feels fake at first, because it's not fake. It's formative. You're not pretending. You're training. You're setting the conditions for the brain to adapt, for your identity to evolve, and for your life to catch up to your values. And that's the difference between wishful thinking and transformation. One is passive, the other is practiced. One stays in the realm of ideas. The other becomes embodied in how you live. If you want to live differently, you have to move differently. And if you want to move differently, you have to stop waiting for certainty. Certainty doesn't precede action. It's revealed by it. So stop negotiating with your potential. Stop asking your fear for permission. Stop postponing the hard thing until it feels easier. It won't. It's not supposed to. That discomfort is the path. That resistance is the doorway. And if you walk through it enough times, it stops being a wall, becomes a mirror, showing you who you've always been capable of being. Because here's what's most important to remember. You can't think your way into a new life. You have to act your way into it. And when you do, when you finally stop waiting and start moving, your brain will never be the same.